This is News Talk.
Now then, you're welcome along. So Tuesday evening here and Off the Ball. Slightly different show this evening to the norm. Our focus is very much at Anfield. We have live commentary of Liverpool against Manchester United coming your way. Stephen Doyle, Vinnie Perth will be calling the action. Text number is 53106. We are at Off the Ball. We will be chatting obviously for the next hour as part of the build-up to the game. Mick McCarthy here in the studio. Hello.
Hello, Joe.
Arthur O'Dea also in the studio. Hello, Arthur.
How are you getting on?
And Richie McCormack with us as usual. Hello.
Happy Phil Jones Day, Joe. Happy Phil Jones Day.
Phil Jones Day?
Yeah. That man is starting at Anfield tonight.
Wow.
Happy Phil
The year
Jones.
of our Lord 2022.
Well, that's a turn up. Who's been left
It's
out?
all about
Give us
it's
the
all
team.
about resurrections, Joe. Phil Jones is to really live up to the expectation of resurrections. Starting 11 for United tonight, okay? David De Gea starting goal. It looks like a back three. I suggest I might be wrong on this one, but it looks like a back three. Victor Lindelof, Phil Jones and Harry Maguire. In midfield then, we have Nemanja Matic and Paul Pogba, with the width provided by Diogo Dalot and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and Anthony Elanga and Bruno Fernandes are in support of Marcus Rashford up front. So that's United starting 11. Good luck to them. Liverpool have a couple of changes, but not many tonight. Roberto Firmino, they say, misses out through a foot injury. But the changes from the weekend win over Manchester City at Wembley are sparse. Alisson in goal for them, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joel Matip, Virgil van Dijk and Andy Robertson. Fabinho, Jordan Henderson and Thiago Alcantara are in midfield. And the pacey front three of Luis Diaz, Mo Salah and Sadio Mane. Happy Phil Jones Day.
Very interesting. Hey, let's leave off Phil Jones, all right? The man's had a torrid time. He's effectively been bullied by the world at large. And he did a great interview about it, actually, where he's had to work back from colossal injury troubles, like really genuinely terrible injury troubles.
Yeah.
And talked
To be
about
fair,
how walking down the street, he was getting abuse from people, even when he was with his daughter. And so he's got he's got things back together here, and let's see what he does.
All right,
Considering
Joe.
the season,
Stop trying to make me feel bad. The real story here is Eric Bailly. Samuel Luckhurst from the Manchester Evening News just pointed out that a year on from getting a new contract, Eric Bailly is now officially United's fifth choice centre back. So that shows you the level of HR dazzlery that's going on at Old Trafford at the minute.
Well, Bailly's just. At times he has a stretch where you think, oh well, he's got his pace and he's growing into the role, and then he does these dreadful things time and time again. He's just not fully trustworthy back there.
I think the pertinent point that Richie makes, though, is how eager United seem to be to locking down all these people that they don't seem to want. It's just consistent, really, isn't it? It's just like, new contract, guys. Okay, right, well, you're not really in my plans.
Yeah.
But you're here for another few years.
Two stats which don't bode well for this evening. United's last away goal. When do you think the last time United scored at Anfield was?
At Anfield?
Yeah.
Oh, I can.
And be reasonable here. They're Manchester United. They've spent £1 billion. I'm not saying last time they won at Anfield. Last time they scored a goal.
Was there
17, 18?
Was it as far back as Ibrahimovic?
It was December 2018. Richie mentioned 18.
later.
That's the last time they scored a goal. In their last 10 away games, most recently, they've had one clean sheet. So I would say the odds this evening, just looking at the numbers, are they're not going to score and they're not going to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah.
Now, I'm no mathematician. If I was to channel John Nash for a moment, that's not going to be good for them.
We'll get you on Meaningful Metrics on Thursday to tell us exactly why Manchester United are going to not do too well today.
So it's ominous. They've clearly decided, looking at that team, to go very defensive. Let's bring in Stephen Doyle, actually, on commentary alongside Vinnie Perth. Stephen, you can put a shape in that Manchester United team.
Well, there's no point in me coming on, Joe. The lads have stolen all my thunder, haven't they? Like Janie Mac.
You have to have thunder in the first place, Steve-O.
Oh my goodness. Wow, yeah, it's quite the United team, isn't it? Just I don't know what Ralph Rangnick is trying to achieve here. They need points to try and get top four, and I would have thought you want to try and play a couple more attacking players at least. Lingard came back in, and he was playing against Norwich at the weekend. I thought surely he could be worth a go, but it does look like a back three anyway, with Lindelof, Maguire and Jones, Dalot and Wan-Bissaka as the wing backs, and then you'll have Matic and Pogba probably deep midfielders, and Fernandes maybe playing behind Elanga and Rashford. But it really is, I have to say, I'm just really shocked at this United team. It's incredible. Liverpool, on the other hand, look far more solid there with their 2 changes from the game against Manchester City. And they were, of course, winners against City in that semi-final on Saturday, 3-2. They really had the game wrapped up by half-time, as we know. 3 goals, 2 of those coming from Mane. He keeps his starting place, as do the other 2 attacking players, Salah and Diaz. The changes coming in the back line and in midfield. It's Henderson coming in for Keita alongside Fabinho and Thiago. And then the fullbacks, Robertson and Alexander-Arnold, keep their places. And it's Matip in for Konate. And Virgil van Dijk stays at centre-half alongside his old buddy there. And Alisson in goal. Now, the only other thing is, well, Joe, I don't know if you were aware of this, you were talking about clean sheets and stuff. Interesting to see, when you look at Alisson's stats, the last 3 matches, he's seen 7 goals go past him. I hate kind of pinning it all on the goalkeeper because, especially a keeper of the quality of Alisson, he's been really excellent, as we know, in his time with Liverpool. But he's let in 7 goals over the last 3 games. His previous 16 games, he'd let in 5 goals. So perhaps he's on the slide a bit. Perhaps the defence are on the slide a bit. And that might give United a glimmer of hope, or United supporters. Look, Joe, I'm just trying to give you and all the other United fans out there a little bit of hope.
There's no great shock increasingly the more you look at it in what Rangnick has done here. This is a team beaten 5-0 at Old Trafford by Liverpool when they tried to press that day, and it was utterly disastrous. If you remember, this was the period of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's tenure where he was being asked, why aren't you pressing? And so they tried to press and they were cut through instantly. So what Rangnick's done here is said, we're going to Anfield, we have virtually no chance of outplaying Liverpool, let's just go 5 at the back, 3 in midfield, and I would think we'll see, depending on which side of the pitch play is on, one of Elanga or Rashford drop into that 3 to make it a 5-4-1 at all times, and that's how they're going to go about this game. I mean, you can understand the logic, Stephen. They're playing against a much better side, a side in perfect form. Why would we go to Anfield and pretend in our lineup and in our preparation that we can do anything other than hang on for dear life?
Yeah, absolutely. But we saw last season with Lingard at West Ham when the chips were down and they needed goals and points. He was doing very well for West Ham. And I know he probably hasn't had the amount of opportunities he would have wanted this season. But I would have thought he was maybe worth starting in the game today. Interesting as well, McTominay was talked about possibly being injured for this game. He's on the bench as well. Now, I can only assume that, you know, he's not fully fit and that's why he doesn't start. I would have thought he'd be a better option there instead of Matic, a little bit more mobile. McTominay, and also really good. He's one of the few United players that gets it. He gets what Manchester United supporters want from their players. He mightn't be hugely as talented as, you know, midfielders gone past like Fletcher and Keane and that kind of thing, but he is a man who will, he'll sweat blood for Manchester United out there on the field of play, and that kind of aggression that perhaps they need today. But, you know, it is interesting looking at that bench. You know, outside of McTominay, Lingard and Sancho, there's not really much there. Jadon Sancho, again, another surprise perhaps that he's not being allowed to start, but maybe they're thinking, well, look, we'll spring him from the bench. But my feeling on Liverpool in this game as well, Joe, and as we know, Liverpool and Manchester City, the 2 best clubs, you know, in Europe at the moment and perhaps over the last couple of seasons. The one thing they are very good at, whatever about their squads and their managers and their players, it's game management. That's what it's all about, and that's what Liverpool have been about over the last couple of games. We saw it against City. They had the game wrapped up at half time. They didn't need to overexert themselves in the second half, and I think they will come out here, you know, hell for leather in this match, try and wrap it up by half time. And perhaps that's what Ralph Rangnick is predicting as well, and that's, as you were saying, is just try and keep it tight for the first half and perhaps nick a goal at some stage in the game and then just sit on that from a United perspective. But as I said, I think Liverpool will try and get out and get this one wrapped up as quick as they can. United, of course, have to play Arsenal on Saturday. Liverpool have an extra day's rest. They play Everton, who have been as equally as bad as United have been over the last couple of weeks. I'm sure Liverpool would be expecting a win in that Merseyside derby as well. But I don't know. Look, I saw United on Saturday against Norwich City, the worst team in the Premier League, and they were perhaps lucky not to end up drawing that game at Old Trafford at home. We heard discontent from the supporters in the stands. Paul Pogba was booed off the pitch. He cupped his ears. It kind of reminded me of that time Granit Xhaka when the Arsenal fans turned against him. Perhaps we can feel a bit sorry. I don't know whether it's a culmination or just of what's happened to Paul Pogba over the last couple of seasons and the lack of performance from him since he came back to the club. Maybe that's why fans felt they had to express themselves in that kind of way, or was it his performance on the day? It has to be kept in mind as well that Paul Pogba, like a couple of other Liverpool players as well, is observing Ramadan at the moment. he would have been fasting when that game against Norwich was on. Not so this evening. You'll have a chance, a bit like Karim Benzema last week. I saw a picture of him with a pint of milk and a couple of dates before he went on to beat Chelsea with Real Madrid. But yeah, it's just there was obviously supporters' protests as well before the game on Saturday. It just seems to be everything is going wrong for United at the moment. They're going to be losing players, get out of contract during the summer. Rangnick doesn't have really any control over this team or over the club. It's all a bit of a mess, really. And you know, I think if Liverpool hit their straps tonight, this could be bad for United.
Oh, sure could. Stephen Doyle, thanks very much for the time being. Vinnie Perth will join us ahead of kick-off, which is at 8 o'clock. So again, that United team, De Gea and goal. Back three, but let's call this the back five that it's going to be. Wan-Bissaka, interestingly, will be at presumably maybe left back. Tella's on the bench. So Lindelof, Maguire, Phil Jones, and then Dalot, right wing back. Pogba, Matic, McTominay on the bench. So Matic and Bruno Fernandes, and then Elanga and Marcus Rashford leading the line, but I suspect doing lots of running back towards their own goal as well. So that's how Manchester United are trying to navigate things at Anfield. This is a don't be 4-0 down at half-time job.
It is, isn't it? And like all the doom and gloom talk before a game like this, there's something inbuilt in me that's like, this is Man United we're talking about. They could spring a surprise, and you know, this will all be played back to us, and we'll be laughing about it. But then you remind yourself that I've watched this team play about 30 times this year, and they're genuinely as bad as we're all talking about. Like, I'd be very, very surprised if Liverpool don't win this game tonight. And it's like, I don't, like, even before the 5-0, I don't think we realised how bad things were. Like, can you ever remember going into a Liverpool United game, either side, thinking this is a done deal before it starts?
Yeah.
Very hard to remember once.
Remember the season they were going for the league under Rodgers, and they played that Moyes United, and it was like 3-0, and it was just a foregone conclusion. That was sort of similar.
Yeah, and that Moyes United team wasn't as bad as this one, and you know, we talked a lot about them at the time, but were they as shambolic as this team? I don't think.
Nor was the Liverpool team as good.
How have United spent that amount of money in the last 5-6 years and ended up with that starting 11?
Ed Woodward.
Like, I appreciate their. I know, yeah. Like, it's a simple answer, etc. Like, it can be, but even allowing for the gross incompetence of Ed Woodward, like, how does a major team spend that amount of money, even setting aside injuries and the Ronaldo situation, which is desperately sad? But how do you end up with a team like that? Whereby you look at it, you send it to Anfield, a Manchester United team going to Anfield, and the preconceived and received thought is they've no chance. Like, that's criminal. And it's a criminal misspend of just like hundreds of millions of pounds, and it's bizarre.
Ronaldo is on compassionate leave, you might have seen, which is just a utterly awful situation. I saw Manchester United saying there's going to be an applause at the stadium on the 7th minute. Interesting to see. I would presume be
Liverpool
observed
fans
generally
have come out and said that they will, like, I think they might have instigated it, to be honest. Obviously the game's at Anfield, so it was one of those hopefully positive stories. You would hope anyway that nobody would sink to anything else for a story like this. You know, it's obviously absolutely horrific.
We should start the news round. It is brought to you with Gillette Labs for an effortless finish to your day. We'll preview that game in a bit more depth with Vinnie Perth ahead of the 8 o'clock kickoff. Richie, you're starting with MTK news.
Yeah, Bob Yalen claims the intense pressure of the last few weeks have led him to step down as CEO of MTK Global. His decision comes a week after the US Treasury Department placed a $5 million bounty on Daniel Kinahan. Kinahan founded MTK, but the company just last week claimed he's had no direct involvement since 2017. Another of Kinahan's clients says the sanctions imposed on the Dubliner are none of his business. Tyson Fury was speaking at a public workout today ahead of his heavyweight world title bout with Dillian White, which comes up this weekend. Fury is, of course, an MTK client, and Kinahan is a known advisor to the WBC heavyweight champion, but Fury had very little to say when pushed on matters Kinahan this afternoon.
Yeah, again, I've said this to quite a few people this week. I don't get involved in other people's businesses, and I keep mine to myself, and that's it. What other people do in their lives, I've got my own troubles and my own problems to work on myself with a wife and 6 kids, so I keep my business to myself.
Any kind of relationship you did out is over now?
That's none of your business and none of anybody else's business, I don't think, is it? You know, it's my business is my business, your business is yours, and that's it.
You're not worried it's kind of overshadowing the fight and, you know,
like
taking the focus off you?
It's got nothing to do with me in boxing. I'm just a stupid boxer who gets punched in the face for a living. Because if I wasn't, I wouldn't be here, would I?
It's ringing a bit hollow, Michael.
It certainly is, Joe. Look, I think we all know what, we all know in the way that Tyson Fury will react to certain lines of questioning. We all know how, we saw last week how Matchroom, say for example, have a set line that they are going with. The point is that the questions are being asked now. We've been, I had a conversation in here 3-4 weeks ago about MTK content and how really outside of Ireland it's irrelevant. It's not going anywhere. We're just going to be constantly, the world of boxing is going to continue to push, that the normalisation of this relationship that this man has with the sport. And then everything changed last Wednesday, and it's amazing to see nearly a week on that is actually only gathering momentum. It hasn't slowed down, and it's changed everything. And, for I think those of us who are interested in the resolution of this issue and him being not associated with big time boxing anymore, I think that's only positive. The fact that Tyson Fury is being hounded about this now, when even last week, especially I don't know what you would call it, like organised press conference where certain people weren't let in or let ask questions so that this wouldn't be mentioned.
Yeah.
Was what was that, Thursday or Friday? Thursday, I think.
Thursday. Yeah.
In retrospect, that was a very silly move because it seemed to prompt further anger amongst several like-minded journalists, because certainly reviewing the Sunday papers, Don McRae had a big piece in the Observer over the weekend. Several of the English journalists went big on this excuse for a press conference because it was so ridiculous, and therefore they were writing about it, and it gave them a different angle almost to keep the story going, which is sometimes part of a story like this. So that's Fury. He's like almost pleading that I'm a private citizen, as if he hasn't aired so much of his life over the last decade or so, and now it's like, nobody's business. None of this stuff is anyone's business. Richie, Ireland have a daunting task at the weekend. They have lost their sevens players, a couple of big injuries as well, so some replacements drafted in.
Yeah, 7 players in all called up to that Ireland squad ahead of their final 2 matches in the TikTok Women's Six Nations. Sene Niopu among them, the Leinster centre, one of those 7 added to the squad for the games with England and Scotland. The likes of Bevan Parsons, Amy Lee Murphy-Crowe, Stacey Flood and Eve Higgins have joined up, as you mentioned, with the Ireland Sevens panel. Sam Monaghan and Aoife Wafer both missed out on Sunday's game in Leicester through injury. Uncap Leinster pair Niamh Byrne and Alice O'Dowd link up with the Six Nations squad, as do Laura Feely, Laura Sheehan, Mary Healy and Shannon Toohey.
Yeah, Welford Road, the venue for that game. Sam Monaghan is a big loss. Just on top of all the sevens players going, to lose her through injury is another blow. This could get very tricky for this team at the weekend. I mean, 40, 50 points defeat easily, if not more. Yeah,
it's what you thought before to lose as well, and obviously it turned out that way. We're just looking for green shoots, I suppose, and start of development, and that's the way I was certainly looking at the France game. But now I just think this is still such a mess. I know it's all, everybody is
the
happy
sevens.
and exactly, losing the players just in the middle of a tournament. I understand it has to happen. I understand a resolution was come to, and it isn't quite matter for dispute anymore. But it just feels wrong, doesn't it?
The more I think about it, the more I feel like the rugby community, so sevens and 15s at a global level, should recognise that at the stage the women's game is at, lots of sevens players are contracted and are used in the 15s game. I think the Welsh had a similar setup for a while. So there must be a way to organise the calendar to just give the Six Nations some kind of a window.
Yeah, until the playing numbers grow to such an extent that you can have 2 separate identities almost. Yeah,
exactly. Because I mean, Six Nations is a big deal, and so this just feels it's like impossible for any coaching ticket.
And what good is it to Ireland with a new coaching ticket, with a lot of new players, and you go in and you don't even have your full strength, which wouldn't be good enough anyway, because they're at that starting point.
Well, this is
you're trying to make it a positive story this year because it's been such a hard couple of years, and now you go no World Cup to go to, and it's just like starting again almost next year.
Yeah, but certainly the professionalism question is going to come back very soon, because the Welsh turned professional really only from January was when they all went into camp and trained as professionals, and there's been such an improvement versus last year where Ireland beat them 45-0, and we saw the massive turnaround there at the RDS. And also you look at England, who are a different proposition and have more playing numbers and are more established anyway, and we're one of the best teams in the world anyway. But England in 2019 turned around to 28 players and said, you are now full-time. These are full-time contracts. They haven't lost a game since. They're the best team in the world.
Yeah.
And the gains that you can make by going professional are huge. So if Wales are now professional, England are very much professional, France, not fully, but as good as for the purposes of this tournament. If Scotland were to go that way, I mean, the questions will only grow,
You talk about the massive improvement in Wales. Obviously, you can see it in their quality. But what's my take home from that game was that Ireland were as good as them until 50, 60 minutes, where they just could not hold off anymore, and that one team was a lot physically superior than the other, and that comes from being a full-time, even if it is only from January.
Yeah. Size was a part of it. Certainly, we don't seem to have size. It seems to be true.
Naturally.
Yeah, there's a bit of that as well. So James Ryan is nearing a return, Richie, we're saying?
Yeah, positive news on the James Ryan front. He's nearing a return with Leinster, but he won't be included in the squad that travels to South Africa. The lock hasn't played since suffering a second head injury of the year in this season's Six Nations in the win over Scotland. Ryan will continue to train in Dublin with the rest of the squad heading to Durban to play the Cell Sea Sharks.
And now Ulster-Munster news ahead of their quarterfinals.
Yeah, Jack O'Sullivan likely to miss Munster's Heineken Champions Cup quarter-final with Toulouse. The back row forward will be out for a number of weeks, they say, after sustaining a knee injury in the away leg of their win over Exeter. Munster go to Ulster in the URC on Friday and will do so without Gavin Coombs, Dave Kilcoyne, Tyg Byrne, Andrew Conway and now, of course, O'Sullivan. Ulster, meanwhile, they'll be without Kieran Treadwell and Billy Burns for that game at Kingspan Stadium. Both suffered concussions in Saturday's loss to Toulouse.
Munster performance, much better. We'll be talking about that tomorrow on Wednesday Night Rugby. And then Ed Sheeran strikes again.
Yeah.
Again. Sorry, I thought you meant it as well as Thomond.
No.
just Porky Queeve and Thomond, Arthur. Nothing else so far.
I'm not writing it off. I mean, there could be a press release imminent. What's the next sporting occasion that Ed Sheeran's going to sabotage?
Like, I actually genuinely didn't know that the Thomond Park concerts had the possibility of a clash, because it just didn't come up because it was all Porky Queeve all the time.
Yeah.
And then you just see this, it was about 15 minutes to go in the game, and I think it was before it was like while the Ulster Toulouse game was still on. It was like, if Toulouse win this, that Munster are getting kicked out of Thomond Park, and you're like, I can't believe this. I know. It's unbelievable.
Because the Cork County Board do have I think, not unreasonable excuse. It's an excuse of sorts that when they agreed to the Ed Sheeran concert, the championship had not been radically altered in terms of dates, and so they were like, well, we're going to have to stick to the contract we have with Ed. Well, not ideal, but that's how it happened. And I thought, well, that's kind of reasonable. Like, the Heineken Champions Cup quarter-final weekend has been inked in for months and months and months. So clearly Munster, there's a financial imperative there. Said, well, it's several million, and we do want to have this stadium dual purpose and hosting concerts. So
it's the biggest game of the year in that stadium for its purpose, which is as Munster's home stadium.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not actually up in arms about this. I just think it's a real pity. It's not like, why do you have the stadium? Why are you raising the money? It's so that you can have this brilliant 25,000 seat stadium for your Heineken Cup quarter final when Toulouse come to town.
Yeah. I guess it's to pay for the next De Allende contract, isn't it?
It's crazy though. It is. It's pretty insulting. I'm surprised you're not more up in arms about it. Like, it's not, surely for the players and everything, it undercuts them.
Look, we just didn't think you were going to have a home quarter final. We thought you might get in by the skin of your teeth.
No, it's tough. Like, it's tough, and like what might be, like it's just like you're not. There's only so many of those days you get, really. Like in terms of a career, and I don't get into very kind of thing, but like for someone coming back, like, you don't get that many of them, and that is such an iconic thing for them in Europe.
I guess like they're not playing in like a back garden either. Like, they'll play at the Aviva Stadium. They'll be fine. I do take the point, Richie. There's no talk of Cork hurlers or Cork footballers Munster kind of joint protest, like a march of any kind, is there?
Nothing. They might have shown up outside Whelan's. Apparently Sheeran's playing there tonight as well, so they could be picketing outside.
He's over already.
Is he actually over in Whelan's?
He is, yeah. He's ruined the semblance of a quiet pint for anybody who's pitching up to Whelan's of a Tuesday night tonight. He's ruined that as well.
Why Whelan's? He's a big Damien Rice fan. I wonder, is it like a homage to
pilgrimage?
I wouldn't be shocked.
I'm surprised it's announced. Richie kind of knows these things, though. This could be top secret stuff, but Richie's on the scene.
It's not. Do you know who told me? It was Stevie Dante out in the office there, texting me about it, going, "Are you going down to Whelan's tonight?" And I was like, "What the hell is on the wheelie bins on tonight?" And I literally had to Google it because I'm so out of the. I'm an old man stuck at home.
Yeah.
I know nothing anymore. But apparently he's playing there, and apparently there's a Vicar Street date as well.
Oh.
Just look, why won't we leave us alone? Leave us alone, man. We suffered enough.
When is the last time Richie McCormack went to Whelan's on a Tuesday night?
Oh, good God. That is a good question, Joe.
decade.
And I do not even have the answer to that. Keep going. Keep going.
Do you know though?
Longer.
Aviva Stadium's grand and all, but it's not in Munster.
No.
There's a perfectly nice stadium in the city of Cork called Portaqueeve that I think could host the Munster Heineken Cup quarter final.
Surely Ed Sheeran can't play both at the same time.
Exactly. That was my exact point. You know for a fact that Ed Sheeran isn't going to be playing there.
Unless there's like a Ed Sheeran rehearsal or something.
Hologram.
Yeah. So there we are, Aviva Stadium. Do you think
Who booked that?
Who?
Like who like in England, right? You wouldn't play, for instance, like the Wirral and Liverpool at the same time. Like you wouldn't put a gig on in Tranmere and then put one on in Anfield. Like just off the top of my head. Why do you need to play massive gigs in Limerick and Cork?
Dunno.
Like just
different
pick one.
cities.
He's immensely popular. Like,
But you mean like do several nights at one, do you?
Yeah, exactly. Like people can travel if they want. It's not as if you're asking them to travel from, I don't know, Antrim to come down to Cork.
Don't talk about the Cork Limerick Road, Richie. You're going down a hole.
I presume Ed Sheeran has no idea that like this section of Irish life is being disturbed this way, and he's been talked about for the last like 3 weeks.
You'd wonder, actually. Like,
Don't
he's
even
got
mention
strong
it, Jim.
Irish roots, you know.
Yeah.
He's got he definitely has a few ears back home, but I wonder, are they sheltering him from the fact that we're on every night talking about how he's ruining Irish sport?
Yeah.
By playing some gigs.
Yeah. Let's we're going to take a very short ad break, and then we're going to finish up the news round and then chatting to Vidi Perth to see if Manchester United can cause a bit of a shock at Anfield. So back with Richie and Mick and Arthur in just 1 second.
The Newsround.
Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Welcome back. So we're going to finish up the news round. It's Joe Molloy here, Mick McCarthy, Arthur O'D, Richie McCormack as well. Richie, apparently it is to do with Damien Rice and some charity effort this evening at Whelan's.
Ah,
there you go.
very good.
Ed Sheeran
Can't slag off charity, Joe.
brought to Whelan's when he was 13 years old in 2004 to see a bit of Damien. And
That can't be legal.
chatted to him afterwards and some encouragement, and he stayed up that night to write his first 6 songs, is what the story
There you
says.
go. Which is
So
more
with
than
Damien
Damien
Rice
Rice
to
has
blame.
written in the last 20 years. That I've heard, anyway.
Lads, who's going to want to listen to your commentary tonight? You're rubbishing the match before it starts, says Eileen. That is a fair point. I was conscious of that. I guarantee on Sky right now they're billing this as the biggest rivalry, and it's going to be an extraordinary game.
Look, it used to be a big game. There's no denying that.
It's still
Joe.
a big game. It's still a big game. I guess, Eileen, the beauty of sport is stranger things have happened. Like, they've spent $1 billion on this team. There's enough talent there to somehow nick a win. So I guess that's why we all keep watching. Whatever about United team news, Diaz over Jota in an otherwise full-strength team is very interesting. His form deserves a 2. How do they keep unearthing these players? Firmino is in genuinely good form and is now 5th choice. They are, in so many ways, the complete opposite to Manchester United.
That's what I was going to say.
Richie was saying, United spent $1 billion and can't get it right, and Liverpool are almost surgical in their precision at the moment. So clock is coming against us. Last couple of stories, Richie. Roy Keane, he was doing a piece with Jamie Carragher over the weekend and made an interesting comment.
Yeah, he's the real carrot for Sky viewers this evening, to be honest with you, not the match itself. Keane admits it's unlikely that he'll be offered the chance to manage another club. The former Manchester United and Republic of Ireland captain held talks with Sunderland back in February, but the League One side ultimately opted to appoint Alex Neil as their head coach. His most recent work was as an assistant to Martin O'Neill with both Ireland and subsequently Nottingham Forest, but that was 3 years ago now at this stage, and Keane says he can't see another club giving him a good opportunity, he says, to get back into management.
I watched this. Did you guys watch it?
No.
It was quite good. They have a nice rapport. Carragher respects Keane so much. It's the thing, you'll have seen it in the past, like Neville and Mika Richards did it, where they're asked a question off camera and then they can move their glass to strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. Have you seen those at all? So they get asked different questions. So like, for instance, at one stage, Roy Keane was the greatest captain in Premier League history. Straight away, Carragher, strongly agree. You know, this kind of, and then they chat afterwards about it. And it was just in the midst of the conversation about punditry. And I think the question was, Carragher and Neville are the best duo versus Richards and Keane. And actually, Keane totally agreed that they were better. But in the midst of the subsequent conversation about punditry and everything else, Keane sort of, Carragher was asking him, do you like it? Famously, he said he never thought much of it. And he didn't say he loved it at all, Keane. He was still saying, yeah, I like going to the games and, giving my opinion a little bit. But he said, he just kind of very casually said, I've kind of given up now on ever becoming a manager. And I thought, it's the first time.
That's actually big news,
he's ever said that. But it was just very quietly slipped in, and it was kind of sad in a way, because he didn't say it wasn't for want of wanting to get back in there and do it. He just said, no one's going to give me a good job.
I kind of wanted him to get that Sunderland job, and when it fell through, I kind of thought, why did I want them to get that Sunderland job? A no-hope job for a cursed club, or stay on TV and entertain me every week and let people argue about whether he's technically a good pundit or not. He's the best thing on television.
Yeah. Well,
I just want them to embrace it and enjoy it a little bit.
I was just going to say, I wouldn't say he's embracing it. He's processing it. That's what he said. He's coming to terms with it. So the hurling at the weekend, Richie, what do you got for us?
Yeah, the Cork manager Kieran Kingston says they can benefit from having this week off from the Munster Hurling Championship. The All-Ireland and League finalists were beaten 225 to 117 by Limerick on Sunday. Their performance has been criticised from several sides, and Kingston says they probably need this week to regroup.
I suppose in hindsight it's better to have it off when you lose, because if you win, obviously momentum going into next week, and we saw that last year running through the All-Ireland series. It's probably good to have a bit of momentum in game after game. It's not any harm if you can avoid injuries. In this scenario, having lost the league final and then losing today, I think that 2 weeks break is better for us. Yes.
So that's Kieran Kingston. Two stories here. I think one, the headline news: Limerick, no crisis, and that's very important to state. And then secondly, for Cork, there's just a sense that the manner of the defeat was so comprehensive that this really has blown any sense of optimism to smithereens here.
Along with the league final performance, which was poor as well, and I think the manner, the manner of the defeat and the style really just angered Cork fans. You can hear it, Richie alluded to the criticism there, but it's been really extreme. I think people are just fed up now. I think this Limerick second goal, I think it'll be remembered almost in the annals of the game, because there was that moment where Cork player had the ball in his hand and actually almost took the 2 steps that you take when you go to drive a ball 100 yards, and just pulled back because there was nobody there. There was nobody running for the ball. There was nobody up there. He hand passes it back. Everything goes to hell, and Aaron Glenn goes in and scores the goal. And it was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen on a field, and it was it summed up their entire performance. They were just, there was nobody up front to hit the ball to. They were designed not to do it. But then also, when the option was there, the forwards weren't making the runs either. So it's what's going on with Cork? What were they doing? That's what I would like to know. Is they weren't doing any of the possibilities of what were they passing the ball around for? What were they eventually going to do? It was just, and to think they scored a goal after 15 seconds, and you're thinking, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
It's quite striking though as well when so much of the criticism is so pointed, and it's all kind of at, well, you're just not working hard enough. And it's I know there's probably a bit of groupthink to that as well. Everyone, oh, that's what it is, that's what it is. But that's what it was. It's not. You clearly, Limerick aren't. Nothing is beyond. It's not beyond being caught. And Cork have everything at their disposal to do it. They've all the players. They've all the expertise there. They've everything else. So I don't It has to be sort of a personnel thing or a player thing.
On the older players.
Yeah.
Is there just a brutal argument here that they have wonderful hurlers and stickmen, but actually, when it comes down to it, Limerick can physically smash them?
Yeah.
Do they actually have the hurlers to beat Limerick in terms of size?
I don't think their hurlers are as good as Limerick, and their physicality is not as good as Limerick. Limerick are a one-off, absolutely. Cork should be better than they are. They should have put it, and they've had a few goes at them now, and obviously they beat them in the league, and it was it wasn't shadow boxing this year, but it was for Limerick, and...
By the way, we're never doing a piece on the hurling league again. Ever. Richie, Colin Bonner and Tipperary.
Yeah, Colin Bonner believes Tip can prove some doubters wrong in this year's Munster Championship. They lost by 4 points to Waterford at West Park on Sunday. Despite having a new look panel, Bonner believes there's plenty to come from his Premier players.
these are not 18 and 19-year-olds. Craig Morgan and Quigley, like, they're 23, 24. They've waited a long time for this opportunity, for this chance. And yeah, they're replacing huge players that have played for Tipperary over the last 10 years. But we have huge belief in what they can bring and what they're about. And there's more players in that dressing room that are only waiting for a chance. So Tipperary, yeah, look, today we're hugely disappointed, but you know, we have to regroup very quickly, and we have to set our sights now on Clare, no doubt Brian Loam is down there looking at that and sizing up in terms of what we're about. And you know, so yeah, look, we have to get the boys recovered. We have to get back into it. We feel we still can have a say in this championship.
This was really interesting. Tipperary far better than expected, like, genuinely far better. And then Waterford, whether it's all the expectation, whether it's the bizarre for them sense of being raging hot favourites against Tipperary, they had some edginess or stage fright, but whatever the cause of it was, the result was they were giving the ball away countless times, and you know, shot selection was average, shot execution was average, and I don't remember them playing that badly for a very long time. They got it together as it went on, but Tip didn't go away fully either.
Well, it's brought on Jamie Barron and Ozzie Gleeson at half time, and questions over why Ozzie wasn't playing in the first place definitely must be asked, but I think they got 2-5 to 2 points then, and it felt over. But then Tip came back into it again, you know. But the only thing I'd say to that is Tip were much better than expected. Noel McGrath was still by far and away their best player. You know, it's like over the course of the year, they're just not going to get away with not missing Brendan Maher, Paddy Maher, Seamus Callanan, depending on when he comes back, obviously. And it's like you have Noel McGrath into that like lineup. Is he going to be able to stay fit? Is he going to be as potent as that all the way through? He was brilliant. Yeah. You know, don't get me wrong, young players will come through, but I don't think they're overall experienced enough with top players at the moment. But we'll see. They'll probably still be Clare at the weekend. They'll be through then almost.
Yeah. So, well, that's the hurling. We'll come back to it obviously across the course of the week. We're into the throes of it now. Rich, do you want to bring us maybe one last story, whatever you fancy from the weekend?
Mr. Lowry, I suppose, he says what doesn't kill him will only make him stronger. He threw away a one-shot lead on the 14th hole of Sunday's final round at the RBC Heritage. His double bogey there saw him surrender pole position, eventually settling for a share of third at Hilton Head. Jordan Spieth took the win, beating Patrick Cantlay in a playoff.
It was incredibly dramatic if anyone watched on this Sunday. Jordan Spieth won this tournament. He ranked 60th in putting for this tournament.
How's that?
I don't know how it worked. Yeah. In his interview afterwards, he said, well, I won the tournament without a putter, which is really not how golf at this level works. So it was
shame to break your heart, because I'll tell you, it'll take a lot for me to turn on the golf on the weekend after the Masters, when I've just spent 4 days watching it, you know. And
only the hardcores like me and Richie are watching it the week after.
Exactly. But I went in and then got my heart broken. I was like, bloody hell, like, what am I doing here? I've been watching sport all weekend.
Yeah. Well, by his standards, he gave it away. You know, he
did though. Like,
he did. He'd be kicking himself. But he's playing so well. I feel like I think there's a major coming this year for him. Starting to think that way.
You take him throw away the Heritage for a US Open or a PGA.
I think it's a long time since he played this well consistently. So that's the upside for sure. Fellas, we are out of time. We have Liverpool Manchester United to preview. Richie, what's your prediction?
I think it's going to be narrower than a lot of people expect. I think Liverpool by the odd goal.
By the odd goal? Now we're selling our commentary. Did you hear that, Eileen? She texted in earlier. Come on.
2-0 to Liverpool. Simple. 2-0, both in the first half.
I think it'll be a draw.
A draw?
I think that if you got nothing, you got nothing to lose, right? So they've kind of went with a completely different thing.
Yeah.
It's the last thing. It's not necessarily the last thing, but it's certainly not something Liverpool would have been expecting. Now, obviously, they're far superior.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, like,
they just weren't expecting them to put out this bad a team.
This Man United team are still like 5th.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Where you have to be realistic about it. They're still. Do you know what I mean? I know, but I wouldn't write it out. I don't think it's going to be anything like the 5-0.
Okay. Very interesting. Fellas, thank you very much. Richie McCormack, Mick McCarthy,
no prediction
Arthur
from Joe.
OD 4-0.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
Now we have a rollover from the Easter weekend after somebody missed Barry's call today, which means we have over €20,000 to give away. The new amount is €20,641.64. That is the new number. If you entered since 5 o'clock last Thursday, you remain in tomorrow's draw, but you do need to know the new number. All you have to do is text the word play to 57599. Get your entry in by 3 o'clock tomorrow, and then across the Go Loud network of stations, Barry Dunn will make the call. And again, The number is €20,641.64, and you have to answer within 5 rings. Text play to 57599. Again, is the text number. Over 18s only. Text costs €2.50. You are playing across the Go Loud network of stations. Terms and conditions on newstalk.com.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, for an effortless finish to your day. New Gillette Labs Razor with exfoliating bar.
Zilch, nada, diddly squat. If you've got savings, that's about as much interest as you're earning. And inflation's eating into the value too. Have you considered investing to potentially grow your money? At Bank of Ireland, we know you've worked hard for your money. And with our expert support, it can work harder for you. So don't rest